Hi, this is Brian Stephens from SPYPOINT. I'm excited to talk with Darren Choate today, editor from Grandview Outdoors, that includes Bowhunting World magazine, Whitetail Journal, Predator Xtreme, and Archery Business. I've been a fan of these magazines for a number of years based on the content and information they provide, and looking forward to talking to Darren today. Welcome to the SPYPOINT podcast. I'm your host, Brian Stephens, and on this show, we get to talk about hunting, tactics, technology, and the inside scoop from industry pros. Follow along each month as we learn, laugh, and grow together with the passion we all have for the outdoors. This is the SPYPOINT podcast. Hey, Darren, how you doing today? Welcome to the podcast.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We got a lot of ground to cover today, but before we jump into it, I'd love just to get a little bit background from you. Long, history in the hunting industry, but walk people through, some of the things that you're doing now and really the path that got you to Bowhunting World and a number of the other, digital platforms that you currently work with.
Sure, you bet. So I am the editor for Grandview Outdoors of Bowhunting World, Whitetail Journal, Predator Xtreme, and one of our B2B brands, Archery Business.
Nice.
And I started as an outdoor writer probably about 2004 and did a lot of freelance stuff for mostly Western publications, like a little bit for Western Hunter, and then with Rocky Mountain Game and Fish and that type of thing. So full time I was working at Northern Arizona University, but always had a love of the outdoors. I was guiding quite a bit at the time and wanted to be able to have a little bit of a voice on the side, so started doing that. And about 2017, I left NAU and followed my wife to the Phoenix metro area and started working as the publications manager for Western Hunter magazine.
Very nice.
I'd also at the time kind of built my own brand, Western Whitetail, which was because I love Coues Whitetail so much, it was kind of my idea to take something and build a business around it and include all the Western subspecies of white-tailed deer as well. So, and then finally that last gig led to an opening at Grandview Outdoors, and I've been there ever since, and it's been a great opportunity and work with a bunch of great people there, and we got a bunch of great brands we love to get out to the consumers.
That's great. And one of the topics, we'll definitely cover some eastern, southeastern, Midwest type of whitetail stuff, but I definitely want to talk with you about, your experience in Arizona with the Coues and the cows deer and really the mule deer and just that type of hunting. I've been to Tucson and the Phoenix area, a number of times over the years, and it's one of my favorite places to go bow hunt. And you can do some rifle hunting there too, but it's just a super pretty area that I don't think people, appreciate and maybe know. So I'd love to cover some of that and give some people some insights around, some Arizona hunting.
Yeah, you bet. Arizona's a pretty diverse state. You can go from 1,000 feet to 12,000 feet in about an hour and a half. So,
well, while we're on that, I spent, I don't know if you remember, probably 6 years ago or so, the coldest winter that Tucson ever had. It was in January timeframe.
Right.
I was on the side of a mountain hunting cows deer, and we were not prepared for that weather change. And I can tell you that was a long, miserable night. We had coyotes circling our tent, and we were in the fire went out, and we were just like, I don't have enough energy or can get out of this bed to go chase them away. And if they want to come in here and start gnawing on me, they can. But it was definitely, you get some of that weather change in the mountains, and people don't realize. And I've done a lot of bear hunting up there too. So
right.
Really cool area. So let's jump into, first, for a lot of people, we're in the heart of hunting season, and you got the pre-rut and, the rut right around the corner. For a lot of people that are whitetail hunting right now. And, what I'd like to do is just when you think about that type of hunting for that species of whitetail, talk about some of the things that, are important to you as you prepare for a pre-rut or rut type of hunt, whether it be, stand placement that, if you like to call, and I know that may depend on where you're hunting, but anything you can share, that people may be able to, learn from that they would get in the magazine or digital platform that you could talk about today.
Yeah, and obviously we like to cover everything from all the different regions as much as we can. And, like in Bowhunting World, talking about how the rut's affecting people in different places and different times. So the majority of my experience is hunting Coues deer here in Arizona, which the rut doesn't really start in earnest until January 1st.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm a long ways away from that, even though I'm going on a very special hunt tomorrow and have another rifle hunt for Coues deer that starts a week after that. So it's all preparation. And, another one of our editors, Gordy Cron, I recently watched him on a little episode that he was doing and talked about actually making a list and making sure you take the stuff with you, because I've forgotten stuff in the past. I got halfway to a hunt last year and realized I didn't have a rangefinder with me, which is not a good thing no matter what you're hunting, if it's with a rifle or a bow. So
yep.
Those types of things are always important, and just making sure you have the right gear for the right time. And I guess once you get out there, for me, it's, don't be afraid to try whatever, no matter what type of season it is and what timing is going on with the rut and that kind of thing. So
no, and that's
but obviously,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, obviously, my experience with Coues whitetail is a little bit different as far as stand placement. The majority of times that we're hunting those from a tree is probably going to be in August, September, and it's a completely different thing. You're totally on a feed pattern and that kind of a thing. So
it makes total sense. And a lot of times, when I hunted the Coues deer, it was, over water or over a trail, if it was, early in the season, but like you said, during the rut in January, it's a totally different ball game. So yeah. Let's transition and talk about it. You said you got a hunt that's upcoming, and, what are some of the things you're preparing for? What kind of hunt is it going to be? And, what makes it so special to you?
Yeah, so the special one that I mentioned is I happen to be the lucky winner of the Arizona Super Raffle Whitetail Tag, which means my hunt began on August 15th of this year, and it goes all the way until August 14th of next year. And I can hunt any unit in the state of Arizona during that time with any weapon I want to hunt with. So it's one where most people are looking for a super buck. We're talking like 130, 140 inch Coues whitetail. So
yep.
That's what we'll be after. And then I happen to draw another hunt here in Arizona that begins on October 23rd as well. It's also for Coues whitetail. So there's a chance that I could take $2 on that one hunt, or in the next couple of weeks I've taken $2 up here in Arizona. So pretty special opportunity.
That is special. And, you say 130-inch deer is a super whitetail. And for, the species of deer that you're hunting, that is a giant. I mean, and that's
giant. It takes 110 inches to make the buck. So, yeah.
I had a chance to get on about 105-inch, deer in Arizona, a number of years ago on public land, and that, the buddy that I was hunting with was losing his mind. Like that was, for public land, that was a huge deer, and we just couldn't quite pull it off on a spot and stalk. But that's amazing. I mean, and if you are able to use a rifle, that definitely increases your chances, based on the terrain. And again, you'd mentioned earlier, it's very hilly, lots of mountains in certain parts of Arizona where some of those Coues deer like to hang out. So, man, I wish you a ton of luck, and that's super exciting, because that is a tag of a lifetime.
I appreciate it. I should say this too. So this is Arizona's chance to raise money. So this year alone, that Super Raffle raised, I believe, $864,000 for wildlife conservation here in the state. And over the time, it's raised some crazy number that's in the millions for sure. So,
okay, no, that's great.
It's a great way for hunters to give back.
It really is, and even those that don't live in Arizona, I mean, I'll sit there and raise my hand and tell anybody that if you get a chance to go to Arizona and, not only hunt, Coues deer or, mule deer, javelina, I've done a ton of predator hunting out there. It's amazing and great public land. Obviously, there's some incredible units for elk, but those are very hard to draw, and it takes a long period of time. But there's some great public land for whitetail and mule deer that I just, I've been able to experience it, and it's incredible.
Yeah, Arizona has a wealth of opportunities. Like you said, though, it takes a while to get drawn in most cases.
It does. It does. So have you been on any hunts so far this year, whether it be in Arizona or any parts of the country?
Yeah, I've been on a couple. So my son drew a muzzleloader antelope tag.
Nice.
And I got to spend a few days out there with him. Actually, he got a really nice buck on opening morning. It was about 83.5 inches, which is a pretty big antelope. Mm-hmm. He shot it at 405 yards with a CVA muzzleloader. So people think that's a pretty long shot, which it is, but he had practiced out to 400 and 500 and he was comfortable with it, and made that. Had to make a follow-up shot at 15 yards, but I was super proud of him.
I bet you were.
He's a wildland firefighter, so he's busy. He's been on a ton of fires here in Arizona all summer. But he spent 21 days in the field to find the right antelope that he wanted to shoot. And he got Arizona Game and Fish survey, and in their survey, they only saw 15 antelope bucks during that whole time. And there were days where he saw 13 bucks, he saw 15 bucks. I think there was one night that he saw 21 bucks. So he pretty much covered that whole unit and figured out what he wanted and found it there on opening morning and was able to seal the deal. So that was a great opportunity. And I was really proud of him.
You know what's so cool about that? Absolutely, you're proud of him. But what's so cool about that is not only did he make an incredible shot on a great animal, but he earned that. I mean, he put the time in to scout, find the areas, find the animal, and then be able to go get on him and then make it happen. So what exactly. It just, that's one, he'll always, remember and not forget. So very cool. Yeah. So speaking of that, I mean, what's one of your favorite hunts? There's always a few that stick out in my mind, but whether it's with your son or you personally, what's one of your favorite hunts that you think back on?
That's always one of the toughest questions, I think.
That's a good problem to have, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. With my stepdad growing up, there were so many fun hunts that we experienced, and we were mostly weekend warriors, doing it for a couple days, and then some of the youth hunts with my son, and he and I are goofy. We're usually driving down the road, listening to some crazy song and making a video and dancing in the truck.
That's awesome.
Something like that. But it's always about, making the memories and that kind of thing. There was one time that I got to go to Texas with both of my boys. A good friend from high school was able to take his kids, and another good friend of mine that when I was guiding a lot of hunts was my cook, and he and I have done a lot of photography projects and stuff together. But we got to spend about 5 days down in Texas, and some of the kids shot javelina, and we shot a few deer and that kind of thing. And that was a pretty special trip. The people down there at Church Ranch that we stayed with and come to know and that kind of thing were just great folks, and that was a pretty special trip, and we all have some pretty good memories, I'm sure, from that one.
No, that's awesome. I mean, I'm in the same boat. I've been fortunate enough to be on a lot of good hunts. I mean, if I think of a few, one is Caleb and I a few years back in Alberta had a chance to shoot just, a deer of a lifetime, and it was just really cool. One of the biggest deer he'd filmed, one of the biggest deer I'd seen, and we pulled it off, and it was just one I'll never forget. And then the other two are with my boys, and I got to tell this one story because it just cracks me up. So my both of them were 11, 12 years old, and my middle son is he's a hunter. He's sounds like your son. I mean, he's just a killer. And then my youngest, he's always struggled, and so he finally got on a deer, and we're sitting in the stand, and he's sitting there, and his legs just tapping, and he's shaking. I'm like, Clark, man, are you okay? Are you cold? You gotta pee, whatever. He goes, Dad, I gotta pee. And I'm like, okay. So, and we're totally bundled up. This finally got a decent deer, in front of us about 100 yards. And he's like, but Tyler will make fun of me if I pee and stuff. I'm like, it's fine, man. Just let it go, buddy. Let's let it go. So he literally pees his pants, and you can see he just calmed down, I'm like, it's fine, man. It's good. We're both wet. It's good. Let's get on this deer. And so he settles in, makes a perfect shot. And so he's like, don't tell Tyler I peed my pants, So we go load the deer up. And of course his brother goes, and he smells it, goes, Clark, did you pee your pants? And, but it was like, whatever. And he finally got his deer after like 2 or 3 years of missing and stuff. And those are the ones you always remember forever.
That's
so,
awesome.
but yeah, that's super cool. Visit spypoint.com/insiders to learn all about the new SPYPOINT Insiders Club that gets you incredible discounts on things like photo transmission plans and accessories, free shipping from SPYPOINT.com, exclusive content and giveaway access, and the most advanced mobile scouting tools SPYPOINT has to offer. That's SPYPOINT.com/insiders. So when you think about, we'll transition now to, getting ready for, a hunt out where you're at for, Coues deer. And I know just if you don't mind, I know you hear some people say cows deer, Coues deer. What is your interpretation of that? I know some people, get a little offended if you don't say it the right way and you want to pay, the proper respect for that animal. But, what is the proper way to say that species of deer?
Yeah, the way I understand it, it's named after Elliott cows, pronounced like the other animal. However, anybody that is hunting them seriously calls them Coues deer.
Okay.
More like COOS, basically.
Yep. Okay. Well, thank you for that clarification. I've had some people correct me over the years, and some people, they will say it both ways. But we got somebody from right there and an expert in the field, so I appreciate you clarifying that. So when you think about getting ready for one of those hunts, what are some of the things that you prepare that might be different than if you were to do a Midwest or Northeast or Southeast type of whitetail? What are some of the things you're doing different as far as that style of hunting and getting prepared for it?
Yeah, I'd say there's two really big things for me. One of those is physical preparation. So I'm not a giant by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not a Cameron Haynes, but I run anywhere from 9 to 30 miles a week throughout the year. Not the whole duration of a year, but mostly in that January to June timeframe. I do a lot more running than I'm doing now, and a little bit of weight training as much as I can, just to be. I mean, you're literally going up some steep hills from 3,000 feet to 9,000 feet in different places. So, I lived at 7,000 feet here in Arizona for the majority of my life. So living at that elevation prepared me. Now I'm down here 1,000 feet, so I have to do some things a little bit different. I actually lose some lung capacity when I go up the hill these days, but, so physical preparation for sure. And then the second thing is we're mostly sitting on our butts behind big glass on a tripod looking for the whitetail that you want to shoot, and then doing some kind of spot and stalk to get closer for a shot. So that's a lot different than sitting in a tree.
Yes.
Sitting in a tree stand. I mean, you're still sitting there, but you're looking at a lot of different country for a lot of hours, and your time is better spent sitting on your butt than wasting your boot leather.
Yeah, no question. And, I saw that from Jimmy when I was out there, that you have to glass effectively. And there's a strategy to how you cover area and geography and stuff, and and they're not big animals,
Exactly.
and they can blend in so easily. And so how do you pick them out? And then it's a matter of, okay, once you find them, how do you get to them? So that way, because they spook very easily, and then to make it happen. So based on that, how important is glass, and, what do you use, or what do you suggest that somebody go out there if they're going to be serious about it? What type of glass somebody use?
Yeah, the biggest thing, buy the best glass that you can afford. So I've always sat behind Swarovski 15 by 56.
Okay.
Because that was the best that I could buy. There are some other great brands out there. Sig Sauer puts a 15 by 56 together these days. That's really good. It's in a slightly lower bracket as far as price point. No matter what you get, though, you really have to have it mounted on a tripod, just hand holding those things, looking for a deer at what literally might be over a mile. You just can't really do it hand holding binoculars. You have to have it mounted on a tripod.
Yeah. And that's what I saw Jimmy do. And I would come out there in this, second, third time as I started to do the same thing, we could cover more ground. But it really is an art, and I was super impressed with how he could cover so much ground with that spotting scope, and the way that he did it. And he would grid, and then he could find animals that were just like, how did you see that? But you learn over time. But having good glass does make a big difference in being able to. It could be that little tip of an antler. It could be an ear flicker, something like that helps you see that animal, like you said, when they're potentially a mile away.
Yeah, exactly. I think everybody has their own idea of how to do it. I always look for, I call it the easy areas first. So if there's an open on a hillside,
Yep.
I'm kind of looking at that first and cover those a couple of different times, and then come back and start looking at some of the thicker stuff and harder to see into areas to pick other movement of.
Okay. Yep. No, that makes complete sense. So if we think about, what are some of the hunts on the to-do list now? What are some bucket list hunts that you really, you've been thinking about for a few years that may take a few years to plan out or get a draw, but, what might a few of those be?
Yeah, I'd say that right at the top of my list is Dall sheep. I spent 4 years in the Air Force. Most of that was at Elmendorf Air Force Base in Anchorage, Alaska. So although I was a young airman with not a whole lot of money at the time, a good friend of mine and I got to backpack quite a bit while I was there, and I just kind of fell in love with Dall sheep, and I would love to get the opportunity to go up there and do that one time, whether it be with a bow or a rifle. I wouldn't really care, but
Yeah, you and me both, my friend.
Yeah, that would be the chance of a lifetime, I think. So,
absolutely. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of in that same kind of territory. Caribou and moose would probably be right up there at the top of my list. Something I've never been on as far as a hunting situation. So,
Okay.
I enjoy doing some of the backcountry stuff, and I think
Yeah.
those would be a couple great ones where you could, especially the moose hunt, where you could get back and into some crazy remoteness and give it a shot.
No, absolutely. That makes. I mean, I've been on a few moose hunts. Nothing that has really panned out, but that's definitely on one of my to-do lists as well. And I'm still a chance for a big mule deer. Whether it be in Arizona, I've come across a few big ones in Arizona or somewhere out west. But I just, something about a big mule deer gets my heart fluttering, and it's still on the bucket list. I had a chance, so you think about one of your favorite hunts. Well, I could tell you about one of the hunts that I wanted to throw up and, just pack it in was 2015. I was hunting in New Mexico, and a buddy of mine, guides out there, and we were hunting a deer called El Wapo. He was a 212 inch muley. It just double drop, and it was just insane. And so we got on him, and it just trying to film them, and I made a bad shot over them. And when you hunt those different angles too, as a bow hunter, you have to adjust, not only for the deer dropping, but if they're straight down or straight up, that arrow is going to have a certain flight to it. And
Right.
and he was staring at us. He pegged us at 60 yards. And I just didn't compensate, and it flew about an inch over his back, and just ran off out of our lives. And I was just literally, you could see like total disgust of myself, and just wanted to vomit. So that was, one of those that I'm not sure I'll ever get back.
Yeah.
That's just part of bow hunting, though. It's part of bow hunting.
Yeah, exactly.
So anything else, like if you think back to your son, anything that, he's talked to you about, like on his bucket list? He's got a long runway to do it, but anything that's super high on his list that he'd like to do?
I don't know. I'm sure he has some good friends in Alaska right now as well that he grew up with, and I'm sure he'd love to get up there and do something with one of those too. So.
Okay. No, that's,
I'm sure that's high on his list is some kind of Alaska themed or something like that. So.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the bow hunting industry right now. There's
Right.
been a lot of changes over the last, few years. In your mind, what what are some of those big changes, and, maybe transition into some of the biggest innovations that you see happening, and what's on the horizon? And then finally, what can we do to be better stewards of this industry to support it?
Right. As far as some of the new bow technology, I mean, there's some stuff coming out that helps a user do some fine tuning kind of a thing, kind of like Bowtech's done with their cams and that kind of thing. Some of the new bow materials, some of the carbon stuff, and I don't think that's been exposed completely on what might show up there. One thing that intrigues me a lot is was QAD's integrate rest. That kind of, it didn't change the way that the bow was perceived, but it changed the way obviously a rest was perceived and how it mounts to the bow. And I hope that kind of induces some other people to think creatively about something like a burger buttonhole that's been there for as long as I can remember on a bow, but now doesn't necessarily need to be used. I think that we might see some really cool innovation come out of that type of thinking here in the near future. At least I hope.
Okay. What from just outside of a product, anything from an industry standpoint, as far as where do you see the industry going? I know there's been talk, and the sense is that the archery or bow hunting industry has really been flat over the past 2 or 3 years. Do you see that changing in the future, and or if not, what needs to happen to continue to fuel and help this industry grow that we also love?
Yeah, it's always hard to gauge those types of things. Like, you'll hear that, but then I have a really good friend that runs the bow shop, at least one of the ones locally here in Flagstaff, and I mean they're just selling stuff like they can't keep enough in stock.
Okay.
So
okay, that's good.
I think it's the perspective of who you're talking to and what their expectations are, to some degree. Overall, I do think, there's some rumblings from within, like, does crossbow belong in archery, and, does why should we shoot stuff with a rifle? I do think that we have to, as hunters, hold on to all of it and find a place and accept that it's, no matter what you want to hunt with, as long as it's within the legalities of what we're with each state, that we should hold on to that and know that those people are our allies, so.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. There's definitely different perceptions on that. I mean, if you have a physical limitation, it's a no-brainer.
Right.
To me, it goes to, if you want the challenge of a true bow hunt and, go through everything and know that there's a lot that can go wrong, then, use a bow. If you can legally use a crossbow and you can go out there and harvest that animal, feel proud about it. And,
Exactly.
and just the same thing too. I mean, somebody that's using a traditional bow could sit there and tell me, from a compound bow, I can shoot an animal at 50, 60 yards. He or she's got to do it at 25, 30 yards. And
Right.
What they're doing is even harder. And does it make my bow hunting with a compound bow that much less important or enjoyable? To me, it's like, then it's semantics. I mean, whatever, that's what makes this country beautiful and makes having the options beautiful, is that if you want to crossbow hunt, you can legally do it. Get out there and do it. And if you're supporting the industry and spending money and eating the animal and doing all that, God bless you. Why get caught up in all that argument?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There's just too much bad stuff goes out on social media anyway. So, but I think we need to pay attention to that as hunters and make sure we are staying as a cohesive group as we move forward.
Yeah, it's true, and it's funny. I've talked to some of the people in the industry this past year, and it's funny if you think about, Darren, how you've evolved as a hunter, and just more of a wise hunter, more of a seasoned hunter, and I even think of myself at my point in life versus when I was in my 20s. You definitely have a different viewpoint. But I think having people like you and I and others that have been around a while to somewhat stabilize and neutralize a little bit of that ego and or, controversial approach is, hey, it's a good thing to just remember at the end of the day, if you're in the woods and enjoying yourself, then that's what's most important. You're doing it right and ethically and legal, then you know what, to each their own.
Exactly.
So let's transition finally to what's going on in Bowhunting World and some of these other, digital platforms, magazines, again, whether it's Bowhunting World, Whitetail Journal, and some of the other, platforms that you work with. Tell people about what's going on right now, what's exciting, what's on the horizon, and what people can look forward to seeing.
Yeah, you bet. So Bowhunting World, we did cut it back to 6 issues last year instead of 9. So we're just trying to pay attention to what's out there and kind of what's needed and make sure we're providing entertaining, informational content at the right time. So we've kind of looked at it, and we're going to hit some every other month kind of thing, but hit those with the appropriate theme magazines for everybody that's out there. One thing that I'm excited about Bowhunting World that I'm going to take over this year, Rick Combs has decided to finally retire, so I'm going to start doing the bow report for Bowhunting World and archery business, and I'm going to take a little bit different approach, and it's going to be more of a real world kind of a thing. So we'll definitely mention the specs in there with IBO speeds and that kind of thing, but I'm going to actually shoot the bow, not use a hooter shooter, and shoot it at some different draw lengths and different arrows and that kind of thing, and then be able to gauge what's happening and kind of predict, what somebody with a 30-inch draw length would be able to shoot and what somebody with a 25-inch draw length would be able to shoot, and put some other numbers in there as far as weight of arrows from super light to super heavy, and hopefully give some people some real numbers that they can play around with, so that they know if they go buy this bow and these arrows, they'll actually know what they'll be able to accomplish with it, kind of a thing. So
cool.
That's kind of, and I get to have a bunch of bows in my hand and shoot them and that kind of thing. So that can't be bad.
No, not at all.
And the other thing that I'm super excited about is the new Whitetail Journal. So with all that happened in 2020, we did suspend print on that for the remainder of this year, but it's going to come back in 2021, and it's going to come back as more of a coffee table presentation, be perfect bound, and we're only going to do 3 issues, but it's going to have some really great content in there. It's going to be, with respect to the photography, it'll have some really high-end photography in all those departments and columns and features, and I think this will be a really good change for the whitetail hunters out there, and they'll appreciate it. It'll be some good content that they'll want to take in for sure.
Okay, that's great. Okay, anything on the other, as far as Predator Xtreme or archery business?
Yeah, it's kind of plugging away at all of those, and all of those are available in print and digital. So there's a wealth of information out there to hopefully help you become a better hunter for all of those different types of hunters out there. And we do have our B2B side as well. So hunting retailer and shooting sports retailer and tactical retailer. So
okay. Well, good. Well, it's been a true pleasure, Darren, to chat with you today. And I definitely encourage, anybody to check out, Bowhunting World. Whitetail Journal is, would you suggest that they do it, via the website, to go to bowhuntingworld.com and check it out? Or can they sign up for, the digital magazine? Just what's the best way for people to get access to some of these content?
Yeah, I believe platforms? If you just go to grandviewoutdoors.com right now, you can get a 3-year free subscription to all 3 of those magazines if you'd like, the consumer side for sure.
Nice. Okay. So say that again,
grandviewoutdoors.com.
grandviewoutdoors.com. All right, so people need to go check that. I mean, that's a no-brainer to get 3 years.
And the other thing I'd like to say is, if anybody would like to contact me, it's Darren.Choate, Darren Choate, Choate, at grandviewoutdoors.com. I'd love to hear from some of our readers or from other folks out there on the topics we've talked about today, and how we can include those in pieces in Bowhunting World and Whitetail Journal and that type of thing as well. I'm always love to hear from the readers.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. Not everybody, provides that level of access and connects with the audience like that. So, and your viewers. So perfect. I'm glad you shared that. So listen, it's been a pleasure and an honor to speak with you, and I wish you a ton of success on your upcoming hunts, and look forward to some pictures of some stud Coues deer that hopefully you can fill with that. Again, that's a tag of a lifetime. So it's been again a pleasure, and look forward to chatting with you soon, Darren.
I appreciate you having me.
Don't forget to visit spypoint.com/project for all the latest from Project SpyPoint, and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube for all the latest on SpyPoint trail cameras and the outdoors.